Hello, hello, hello. I'm Erica Lynn, better known as Erica Lynn Speaks.
If I can think about it for a second, learn to live life for the better. I had hard times, got a life coach for depression, got a life coach for depression. Now it's all mine, living days full of hard times. Erica Lynn, work on your mind, let's get on your grind. Working on the feelings inside, Erica Lynn got me on the rise.
Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah. Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, alright. Looking up and I fell on hard times. Hard times, they changed my mind. Got my head up, looking to the sky. Miss Lynn, she changed my life. Looking up and I fell on hard times. With her unique design. Got my head up, looking to the sky.
Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah. Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica.
Hello, hello, hello. This is your girl, Erica Lynn, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. Y'all know we like to play big or go home. So if y'all ain't ready to pay big in your own life, then you are in the wrong place, because the best person to start with is you. Nobody else but you. How can you be any good to anyone else if you don't take care of yourself? You know, that's some things that my guest and I are going to talk about today, with taking care of yourself and finding gratitude through grief. Because you guys know, through the month of January, we'll be focusing on gratitude, ways to find gratitude. Sometimes you're like, how can I have gratitude when I'm going through so much? Well, I'm telling you, my guests today, they are definitely going to help you with that, with some personal examples and some things that you can use in your own life. But before I bring my first guest on the stage, I want to formally make a public apology to my mother. Last week on the podcast, I had played a video of my mother just having fun with the family, dancing and doing what she called twerking. And it was funny, but she didn't find it funny. It was very offensive to her. And so I want to publicly apologize to my mom for the video. And so she says, I don't want people to know me as a twerker. I want people to know me as how I really am, that how I help people, how good I am to everyone, how I show up when you guys need me. And that's the image that I want to leave with you guys for my mother. So I do, Mom, I really, truly, truly, truly apologize. And if I offended you, I am so sorry. It will never happen again. And there was another thing that she wanted me to clear up, because I had said, okay, my mother liked to do the dog when she was, growing up, when she was younger in her heydays, but that's not something that she do anymore. And so I had played a video of another lady actually doing the dog. And I think she got more upset because people thought that was her. And I just want you guys to know that this lady was not my mom. And I'll show you guys the lady.
She broke me, she came so long.
So that is not my mother, you guys. I had just found a random YouTube video to show you how the dog is supposed to be done, or how it was done back in her heyday. But I want to show you the image that we get to see of our mom, and the image that you guys are going to see of the mother that I love so much, that my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, how we all love her, because she's always there for us, always showing up. And like I said, even when I had COVID, she's 72 years old. She still drove all the way out to my house and left groceries on the porch because I couldn't come outside. So thank you, Mom. I love you, and I am sorry for the video. So here is a moment of my mom. So, Mom, I hope you like that video better. I love you. We all love you. And again, I apologize for offending you last week. So, without further ado, as I said to you guys, we are talking about finding gratitude through the midst of the grief that we all have experienced. And I know many of you have experienced a lot of grief through this pandemic. And you're saying, Erica, how can I be grateful? How can I be happy through all the things that I'm experiencing? So I'm going to bring my next guest on. Dr. Portia Lockett has transformed lemons in her life and made sweet lemonade. Oh, I'm thirsty already. That serves as a myriad of others with her gifts of teaching, speaking, encouraging, and helping others to not only survive, but thrive in their life and their business. She co-authored Delayed But Not Denied, real stories about faith, hope of triumph, and released resilience testimonies of courage and spoken word that encourages. Co-creator of Anointed Moments and Inspirational CD, Dr. Portia is an inspirational leader wherever she is planted, and that is so true. She is most known for her ability to encourage and motivate people to be great. She's been recognized by the Career Masters Award, Michigan Women of Excellence Award, Spirit of Array of Magazine's podcasts, radio shows, and media such as CNN, Speakers Magazine, and print publications. Dr. Portia has over 2 decades of experience as a workshop facilitator, speaker, and entrepreneur. In that time, she has earned a reputation as an engaging and effective professional who delivers motivation and knowledge of life balance and holistic success. Most recently, she has become a certified grief recovery method specialist following the tragic passing of her son, Azai. In his honor, she has birthed the Azai Ben Lockett Foundation to serve and assist the multitudes of those that are grieving. Dr. Portia also serves as the Director of Spiritual Care and Community Affairs in one of Detroit's urban hospitals. She is an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and Company, serves on as a member of the Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network's Interfaith Board, and I Am That Woman Movement Board of Directors, and Touch of Wisdom Fashion Extravaganza fundraiser, and the Wisdom Warriors, just to name a few. Dr. Portia, you got me tongue-tied over there. But without further ado, I want to bring Dr. Portia Lockett on here. Hello, Dr. Portia.
Well, hello, Erica Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again.
Yes, absolutely. And the first time you came on the podcast, I wasn't as equipped as I am now, right? I had to level up. And once I leveled up, I had to bring you back so you can experience this new level I'm on. I like to take people along with me on the journey.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that Beyonce called you and you all had that conversation.
That's right. That's right. So how are you today?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. Just blessed to be alive in this breakthrough year of 22. And just excited about being on this show with you, my sister, and to share and just to have some dialogue and just to expand upon what you're doing, expand upon what I'm doing. And I'm excited to be able to hear Pastor Burns that's coming on after me. So I'm just elated as always, just to be in a conversation with good people.
Yes, absolutely. Because to have good people surrounding you, man, you have nowhere else to go but up.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people are not blessed to have good people around them. And I say thank you for surrounding me with your love and your presence. I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure, love. My pleasure.
Yes. And so when I was reading your intro, I'm like, wow, you did a whole lot. Like, how did you do all of this stuff?
It was only by the grace of God, and it was all gradual. You know, I was just saying on my last birthday, it's like I woke up and I was this age. And it took me years to get here. Yeah. So where I am right now, it just didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of listening to God, being patient, a lot of forgiving myself and everybody else and moving through the process so that I could become the woman that I have evolved into today, to be able to be a blessing to everyone that has crossed my path. And that is my intention every single day, to be a blessing to someone else.
Amen. Amen. So during the continuation of the pandemic, how can we celebrate the memory of our lost loved ones?
There's so many different ways to be able to do that. A lot of times people think that, when you lose a loved one, you have to go deep, you have to go down, you have to go into a depressing state and stay there. But sometimes I would just encourage people just to do things in their honor, such as planting a tree in their honor, somewhere where you can see it and you can see that person's spirit grow through the tree. Do the things that would honor that person by, let's just say, preparing a special meal, in honor of that person with all the wonderful delicacies that that person would enjoy eating. So if that person was into lasagna, maybe you could have a lasagna day, or a soul food Sunday. If that was the place where you went over Big Mama's house to celebrate her life while she was even living, you can continue those celebrations. And if a person likes to love to travel that you lost during the pandemic, plan trips in their honor and continue to live out that life that they lived, through traveling and seeing the world. God created this huge world for us to be able to see, and not necessarily to explore by YouTube and looking at everybody else traveling around the world. He wants you to have that experience too. So if that was the person's lifestyle, to continue on to it. If that, whatever that person did that they enjoyed, continue to live out that legacy in their honor. And I promise you, it will give you pleasure in the process of doing it.
Yeah. And that's good that you said that, because every year we go camping. And as I said before, I had lost my brother in August of 2021 last year, which was the cause of part of the reason why I didn't do a lot of the podcasts for the latter part of the season last year. And we all go camping every year, and he makes camping the best. I mean, we have a blast. We're sleeping in tents. He pull up his mobile home. He cooks. I mean, he just makes it so much fun. And he has never met a person that he didn't like. And when we were at the funeral, that's the one thing they always say. He's never met a person that he didn't like. So there was no such thing as a stranger to him. And so when we go camping this year, it definitely will be in his honor. It won't be the same, but it definitely will be in his honor.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes. So what are some of the other losses, other than death, that people are experiencing during these challenging, the challenging times? And just, I don't even know what to call it.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because people always assume that death, is the only way you can experience a loss. And so when we think about what's been going on in the world, period, we either have someone that has had the experience of having COVID, or passed away from it, or experiencing COVID and surviving from it. The way we live, the way we interact with each other is totally different. So some people are experiencing, the loss of being in contact with other individuals. You think about our children that were accustomed to going to school every single day of their lives. And now all of a sudden we've got to be at home, and you have to be over in this corner, and another child has to be in this corner, and other children are in different rooms. And then there's mom and dad working in a different room. And so we're all in this home together, and everybody's trying to stay, as focused as you possibly can under the circumstances. Then there's situations where people have just lost their jobs. They've lost their income. Then they've lost their homes because they can't afford to pay their bills. The loss of a car, the loss of a pet, the loss of energy, the loss of a limb, or the loss of a lifestyle, period. And the list continues to go on. And so what we have to do is try to figure out how to wrap our arms around these losses, and how do we recover from them, and then move on through the process of recovering.
Yeah, and that could be pretty challenging, because as you said, when you think or talk about loss, oftentimes it is the loss of a loved one. But I've seen people go through depression for so many other reasons. The loss of money. I
Yes,
mean, that'll send you in a depression that you might can't come back from. And that has resulted in some suicides because of financial loss.
absolutely.
The loss of a car, that
Mhm.
probably would make me sad, because I don't want to get on the bus. I'm old. Like, but you know what I mean?
Erica, you just make it through, because all of those things that you just mentioned, God blessed me to be able to thrive and survive through all of them. The going through a divorce, that was a very challenging moment in my life. Going through a foreclosure. But guess what? Even though I lost my house, God still provided for me to have a home somewhere else. The loss of a car. When my car was repossessed, I still had access to another car. So it's like everything that was taken away from me, God stepped in and provided, because he's a God of provision. So no matter what it is that we're experiencing, God will come back and just say, okay, you lost this, but I'm giving you that. Even through the loss of my son, and that was probably the most horrific loss that I've ever experienced. But even in the midst of that, God began to pour in me and allow me to know that he was still present. He kept telling me, he kept saying, be still and know that I am God. I'm making a transaction. I'm making a withdrawal and I'm making a deposit. And so 6 months or so after my son had passed away, I was blessed to receive into this world the most beautiful granddaughter I could ever imagine in my life. And so as God was, like I said, making that withdrawal, I was receiving a deposit. So we just never know how God is going to do what he's going to do to help us to get through what we're going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is a really good point, because sometimes it is hard to look at the positive when you're going through. But it is important to begin to look at the positive things, because if you consistently focus on the pain, the grief, the negative, then you won't be able to see the positive. And the positive things are little things. They don't necessarily have to be big things. They could be little things. But having a great grandbaby is a big thing. That's a great thing. I don't have any grandchildren, so I'm just going to love your grandbaby. Okay.
She'll receive all the love she can get.
That's awesome. So as a grief recovery specialist, what are some of the things that we can do to move forward during our grieving, during this journey?
So one of the things I always encourage people to do, so I'll go back to the loss of a loved one, because that's the most common, begin to write a letter to that individual. And it may be just the recovery from a person who is experiencing some type of sickness. And I encourage people to, have a conversation, with that individual if they're still living. And if they're just so happen to have passed on, you can still write a letter, because there's some things that we have been holding on to for a long period of time that we need to just let go of, period. And so even though you may not ever mail the letter, you can write the letter and just read it over and then put it somewhere else. You can toss it, you can burn it, whatever you decide that you want to do, so that you can fully say that I've expressed myself. I've been in a position where I can release. Also during grief recovery, you want to consider, making amends with someone who's still alive. Sometimes I go into a situation where a person is at the end of life, but there has not been a place of a platform for forgiveness. And so I invite family members, to circle that family with a circle of love, where they're able to say, Dad, life wasn't always great. You didn't always do all the things that a father should do, to be a provider or a caregiver for your children, but we forgive you. We still love you. So as you're making this transition, we just want you to be able to go in peace and say, we forgive you and we still love you. And say, for example, you have a grandmother, who is elderly. I would say sit down with grandma and have those conversations of, grandma, even though you're transitioning, you may not be here for us forever. Sit down and with us and just tell us some stories about your life way back when, so that we can remember you as you lived your life. And if there's some things that you want to share with us that we've never heard before, share those stories of, and go around and have those remember when times when everybody can say, well, I remember when, because maybe grandma has experienced a little bit of dementia. So that's experiencing loss as well. And so when we sit around and we talk about, grandma, remember the first time you took me to the zoo? Grandma, remember when you used to read that story about, the 3 little bears or whatever the story may be? Grandma, remember when you taught me how to make that dress? Remember that time when we came over and everybody was sitting around the fireplace and we were playing bingo and we were playing cards and we we're playing chess, whatever the games may be. And then grandma sometimes may, tune in a little bit and just say, I remember that. I don't remember that, but thank you for helping me to remember. So we can do all sorts of things, as we're going through that, the grieving and recovering from it and moving through the process. But the first step is to be able to take the first step and just saying, hey, I want to go through the process of recovering from grief. I don't want to remain stagnant. I don't want to stay stuck, because it's not a good feeling when you're just stuck someplace. We want to encourage people to move forward and live your fullest.
Yes. Wow. That is like, while you were talking, I'm sitting here like, yeah, I can relate. Cause I remember when my father was passing, I had bought a book, and the book was like, he could read the book, hit the button and read the book, and it would record his voice.
Yes.
And so I was going out there spending a lot of my time going up and down the highway every day to Flint, and I was like, Daddy, can you just please do this? And he goes, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna be around. And for the life of me, I could not get my father to read the book and record his voice. And I always wish that he had did that, because I wanted to be able to pass that on to my grandchildren when I have some, or at least my sister's grandchildren, so that they can experience, their grandfather, or the man that we love so much. But what I can say is my father was a talker. So there's not a story about his life that we don't know, unless it was something he didn't want to share, but he shared as much as he could. And so when he left here with me not fully grieving, as far as saying I can't come back. He left here with me saying I loved him. We got a chance to spend time together, and everybody in the family. Like, what he did was, one of the things was, he didn't wait until he passed for us for them to give us things of his. He would call us up to his house for the weekend, my sisters and and I, and he would give us gifts. And he'd say, this is from me, or this is from your stepmom. I don't want to wait till I pass until I give you this. So we got a chance to celebrate his life while he was still here, opposed to after he left. And so that is something that other people can utilize, because time is short. Time waits for no one, right? You have to make the best out of the time that you have now, because tomorrow is not promised. And I don't want you to go to the grave and not be like, I should have told Dr. Portia I love her. Right. I should have told Pastor Barbara I love her. So Dr. Portia, I'm telling you right now, I love you, my sister.
I love you too. One of the things my mother used to always say, she had this little sign in her kitchen, and it simply said, today is your tomorrow. You worried about yesterday. And so when you really think about that, today is your tomorrow. You worried about yesterday. Basically, it's saying, be mindful, be present, be in the moment right now. There's nothing we can do about the past. We cannot rewind the tape. We can't fast forward. Live in the moment and share your love for the people that you love right now. Matter of fact, today when I was on my way home, I called a couple of my cousins, and I said, we have this little thread where we text, just about every other day about what's going on. I love you. Here's a scripture. Here's the word for today. Here's a picture of me doing whatever. And so today I said, you know what? I don't want to text. I don't want to, be a part of a chat. I just want you to hear my voice telling you in 2022 that I love you. And that was it. That was the whole message. And yes. I think do more of that, and if it's something that you need to get off your chest, get it off your chest, because when we hold things and we harbor on old things that don't really matter, it harms us more than it frees us.
Yeah.
So I commend you and your family for doing those things, of celebrating together and doing things in the presence and loving on each other. I mean, love is powerful. The more I love, the better I feel about myself. And the important thing is to being able to love self, because some people don't love themselves. They focus on how to love everybody else, but you have to learn how to love yourself, love everything about you. Look in the mirror and say, I love myself. I'm so thankful for my eyes, regardless of what size they are. I'm thankful for my nose, the fact that it can actually breathe. I'm thankful that my ears are in a position to be able to hear. I'm thankful for the hands that I have. I'm thankful for my body, regardless of what size it is, how big or small or thick or thin it is. I love me because this is how God made me. And I'm uniquely and wonderfully made in the image of God. So it's all good.
Yes. And you got to do it. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself.
Yes. Yes. Love it.
That's right. That's wonderful, Dr. Portia. So I'm going to ask you another question, but I'm also going to say something to the audience.
Mhm.
If you guys have a question for Dr. Portia, now is the time to post it in the comment section, because Dr. Portia won't be with us the whole show. Pastor Barbara Bankston will be coming on. Is Dr. Portia has something she has to take care of. So if you have questions for Dr. Portia, now is the time to post them so that you can get a wonderful answer from Dr. Portia. So, Dr. Portia, I have to ask you, what traumas or obstacles have you faced in this last couple of years or last year or during this pandemic?
Well, you know what? I think I was sharing with you about the loss of my son that was not anticipated. And it was the most horrific thing, as I said before, that I've ever experienced. But, also being on the outside and looking in, working at a hospital and seeing so many people that were coming into the hospitals and losing their lives to this epidemic, and so many people not taking it serious. To me, that was just it was trauma. It's trauma, and the trauma continues. And I just wish, and I would just pray that everyone would really take this matter seriously, regardless of what your preference is, whether you want to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. Just wear your mask and do everything that you can possibly do to take care of your temple. And I just want, overall, just for us to have world peace. Because when you look at what's going on in the world, there's always someone worse off than us. We are probably the one of the most ungracious countries, in the world. We take a lot of things for granted. And when we look across the world and we see what's going on in countries such as Haiti, and some of the parts of Africa, those people would give anything to live in a space that we're living in right now. So we just need to be grateful, always be in a mindset of being grateful for whatever it is you have, regardless of how large you're living or how small you're living. Just be grateful that you're living and you're living now.
Right. You are live now. She
That's
said, be
now.
grateful that you're living and living now.
Yes.
So, in the midst of everything that we're going through, you have gratitude. You're grateful that you're still here. You're still alive, because a lot of us are not here anymore. So I'm grateful to still be breathing. And when I realized that, like when that fact really honed in, like when it really set in, Dr. Portia, I
Yes.
said, uh-oh, let me get my butt back up here on this podcast. Let me, do what I'm called to do. Let me not, had the light underneath grief. Let me just get it together.
Mhm.
And so I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to speak with you on this podcast and be a blessing to other people. I'm grateful that I'm alive. Thank God. And as you said, your body is your temple. So I've really been taking it more serious, my workouts at the gym and eating right, because it is my temple. And the more that I take care of myself, the longer I'll be around for my family and my loved ones. And that's the same with all of you all. Please take care of your temple. That means
Yes.
your mind, your body, and your soul.
Absolutely.
And I tell you, one of the things I started doing, I've been reading the book of Proverbs. I'm only on chapter 9, but after people have been trying to get me to do it for a while, and I finally did it. So I'm grateful to be able to read the book of Proverbs.
And it's a good book to read.
Yes. So we got 3 questions in here for you, Dr. Portia, before you get out of here. Deja says, what's your advice on staying positive during the pandemic?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. I start off my day every day with prayer and with meditation and affirming myself and the people that I love. So I start off my day saying today is going to be one of the best days of my life. Better than it was yesterday, but not as good as it's going to be tomorrow. And I'm intentional about doing everything that I can possibly do to stay positive and uplifting. So you may want to get some books on affirming myself, reading various scriptures, putting on some positive, upbeat music, watching shows that are uplifting and encouraging, things that I can learn from, and only surrounding yourself with people who are uplifting and are positive. Get out of those pity parties of people who are just constantly murmurs and complaining. Have a celebration of elevation and just elevate to another level in your life. Do things for other people. Whenever I do something for somebody, it gives me such pleasure and such joy. Like when I Erica kept saying, I have to do something today. I live in a building where there's a 92-year-old woman who lives here, and she calls me her building daughter, her spiritual daughter. And she called me and said, I need to get to the doctor. I think something is going wrong. I say, if you just give me 30 minutes, get yourself together, get yourself cleaned up. As soon as I get off the show, I'm going to take you to where you need to go so you can get the help that you need to get. And I'm just thankful that I'm in a position where someone loves me enough and trusts me enough to care for them and to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty powerful. Listen, you're a bad sister. You could do a podcast and then still go take somebody to the hospital. Look, if I had a hat on, my hat goes off to you, my sister, because that means that your love and your heart is genuine.
Amen.
It's not like things like that you can't fake. You can't fake it. So we haven't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think there was another question.
Yeah. So we have another question by Gwen. Gwen says, as it relates to grief, how do you know when you've truly healed from it?
I think grieving, it's a process. And sometimes you grieve for a long period of time. And then sometimes you just wake up and you just feel better. You just have a different outlook on different things. It's kind of like the way you look at it. So when you're looking at something right now, it just seems so dim and just so dark and so gloomy. And you may not feel like you just want to get out of the bed. You don't want to move forward. You may be in a bad relationship, toxic situation, whatever it may be. And then as you move through the process, because you've realized it and you've gone to get that help that you need to get, possibly from a grief recovery specialist or from a therapist, period, or from a counselor, then as you begin to do the work, you will begin to feel, you'll be able to think a little bit clearer. You'll be able to acknowledge that there's something different that's going on in your life. But in the process, be patient with yourself. Don't try to rush the process. Don't try to pace yourself according to somebody else. Just be open to being you and be open to receive the healing and the help that you need. And you will know that something's different and you're changing, you're evolving through your healing journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I mean, because as you're saying that, I am, going back to when you called me and it's like, hey, my sister, do you need anything? I just wanted to be here for you. And that was what I needed in that moment, because I did find myself slipping. And you know how it's like you trying to claw your way out of something, but you can't even reach the top. You just keep sliding down the wall. And that's how I felt. I feel like I'm clawing, I'm trying to get out, but I'm just not strong enough to stay up. So I'm sliding down the wall. So when I tried to do the podcast, 2 episodes last year in October, I was on that camera and I was not feeling it. I was like, I'm not fully healed. I'm not fully myself. And I can't even fake it. So it makes no sense for me to get behind the camera and try to help others when I need to help myself. So again, I had to get the help that I needed, as you said, for me to be able to be a blessing to other people. And that's the same as many of you. That's what Dr. Portia is saying. Don't say no to help. Get out there, ask somebody, get the help that you need.
That's right.
So, Dr. Portia, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I want you to let everybody know, how can they reach you? Where can they find you at? Of course, that it'll be located in the comments section when the podcast is over. They can find you there. But just for the audio that'll be on the website, let the listeners know how they can find you.
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram, Portia Lockett, just the way my name is spelled, on the camera, as well as on Facebook, Portia Lockett, and also on Twitter, Portia Lockett, and on LinkedIn, you can find me at Dr. Portia Lockett. And also go to my website, drportialockett.com.
Well, y'all heard it from Dr. Portia. Y'all could go to drportialockett.com. Now, Dr. Portia, you've been known for some wonderful one-liners that just blow somebody's socks off. Can you leave us with a message or a word?
Absolutely. I always love quotes that my mother left me, because I can still hear her voice resonating. And so tonight, I just want to leave you with this: good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is your best. Forget about that comparison piece. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just do you and be the best you that you can possibly be, and love you. Love yourself.
Amen. 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 You got to do it for me, Dr. Portia. Love myself, love myself. You got to do it.
I love myself. I love myself. I love myself from my nose to my toes and everything in between.
I love it, you guys. Thank you so much, Dr. Portia. I can't wait for you to come back on the podcast again. I'll see you soon. I love you too.
Blessings and peace.
God bless you. Wow, you guys, I had a good time with Dr. Portia. I'm thankful that God has blessed me with such wonderful women, such wonderful support system, because I can't fail if I wanted to. These women be beating me over the head with love and encouragement and the word to keep me going. And I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And so because of that, I have another guest that I'm going to bring on the podcast that is such a phenomenal woman. She's a mom. She's the master of theology. She has a master's of management, an undergrad in education. She served as a pastor, a youth pastor over the elders council. She's an intercessor, spiritual advisor, mentor, teacher, a purpose coach for the Unlimited Purpose, relationship guru for the Mashiba Web Show, Passion, Purpose, and Power Ministries, which is coming up. The 2022 Passion, Power, and Purpose will be here. So make sure y'all get y'all tickets and attend this event. I'm telling you, I went the first time. I was hooked. I was like, I'm not just signing up to go back to Passion, Purpose, and Power the next year. Like, I got on the council, like, how can I help? How can I be a part of Passion, Power, and Purpose? So she's an inspiring author, and her book releases in March of 22. So you guys join me in welcoming my next guest, Pastor Barbara Bankston. Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for having me. I'm excited to be here again.
Yes, because I know when you came on the podcast, look, I've had 2 different backgrounds, 2 different sets, so this is my 3rd set, and my audio sucked. And so when I listened back to the podcast, I was like, oh my God, she didn't even get to really deliver the full power that's within her because my audio sucked. So now I leveled up and I had to bring you back so that people can experience what I experience, you know? So how's everything, being for you in 2021 going into 2022?
It's been going from 2021 going into 2022 has been very a little bit intense for me, I will say. I've been like on a sabbatical and really taking time to really get in the presence of God, to hear with such clarity. So because I need to really be clear on moving forward just with life. So I've really been just in his presence, really trying to hear answers, not for the world, but for Barbara.
Yes. When I first met you, you and I were talking about this the other day. I said, when we met, I remember I was standing at the front door and I always hugged everybody as they came into the church. And you and I had an instant connection. And I remember we were standing outside in the parking lot and I was like, I don't know why God has brought us together, but let's be obedient. And we just instantly got close and started getting to know each other. And then later on in life, when you began revealing things to me about my own life or things that I'm experiencing and showing me how to overcome my challenges, I say, so this is part of the reason why God has brought you into my life, to help me overcome certain things, not just on a spiritual level, but show me how to fight back at the adversities that's coming to me. And then I said, okay, well, God, I don't want to just be one-sided, to be taken from you. And then you revealed to me the things that I do for you in your life. And so I appreciate you for sharing that with me.
Amen. Yeah, you have been amazing. It's I believe in sisterhood and connecting. And it was like when you came in, you came right in and just fit right in. And I mean, you were a little hesitant at first because this is a tribe of women. And, it's funny because most women, when they come they're like, hold on, this is a tribe of women. They're not mad. They're not fighting. They're not catty. And we have all these unique, strong, it's a bunch of strong personalities of people who are willing to be bold and be courageous and say what's on their mind and still love each other. And so I know that's not a normal culture that we are used to, but you came right in there and you fit right in, and you were amazing, and you got your feet wet. And then you've been amazing for me, like just helping me, encouraging me. I mean, just sending me small texts at the right time. You just never know. I mean, people think that it has to be something major, but it's the small things. It really is the small things at the right time. I'm really big on just allowing Holy Spirit to speak to you and to react. Because you never know what that moment, because we put off things. We'll say, oh, I'll get to that later, or oh, I'll reach out to them later, or but we don't know what in that moment, what was needed to help that person get through the place that they were in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just think sisterhood is so powerful. And the fact that you can have a lot of strong women that's powerful, that's beautiful, that's like got great careers. And then they so transparent. I mean, you can't beat that anywhere. You can't find that everywhere. And so because I was able to find that, it not only made me feel loved and encouraged me, but it made me step my game up. I ain't even gonna lie to you, Pastor Barb. I had to step my game up. I said, I can't go around these women half. I got to come whole or not, because they will see fake a mile away.
Yes. It just is yeah. And then once you got there, you started peeping fake too. You be like, oh, I've been around some of the best. Yeah, I see you. Fake. So
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So we're talking about finding gratitude through grief. And so, Pastor Barb, can you share with us an experience that you had of grief and how you were able to find gratitude through that experience?
So it's funny you would say this. I'm editing my book before it goes to the editor, and I was at the part. It's just I was at the part of the grief, and so it was just funny that this was coming on right before. I literally before I got on, I was at this part of the grief, and the grief was I lost a daughter. So I gave birth to a baby prematurely, and that literally almost like took me out of. I just didn't know how I was gonna make it. I couldn't see my way out. And so I grieved internally for a very, very, very long time. That is actually how Passion, Purpose, Power was birthed out. But through that process, God began to just show me how to change my perspective as I began to heal. This didn't happen instantaneously. This literally happened over years. And like, I literally kept this situation before God because I wanted to heal. I know I didn't want it to be pain. I didn't want the season to come and the pain would be there. I didn't want when I looked at certain people, the pain would be there. I didn't want every memory that was surrounded by this child to be represent pain. And so God began to shift that for me after I got healed. And he began to show me things that was unique and beautiful about her birth. I had all 4 C-sections, and I was able to birth her out naturally because she was premature. And so God said, I gave you something you never had before, right? And then when she was born, she lived. She wasn't a stillborn. She didn't die in my womb. He said, I always allow you to produce living things. I never let what's inside of you die in your womb. And so I had to literally change my perspective of how I looked at it, that yes, she didn't live, but God allowed me to birth out something that lived, right? And so I was able to hold her in my arms and watch her go from here to eternity in my arms. I was able to sing to her the way that I sung to my other children. I was able to love on her, to look at her in her eyes, and just to cuddle and coddle her. I mean, even though it was for a short 3 hours, I was able to do that, and that he did not take that from me. And so I had to shift my perspective of me having that opportunity.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good way to look at it. But first of all, I am sorry for your loss. I know that is a pain that I couldn't even imagine. Like, you know how somebody go, I know how you feel. I don't, but I'm still going to send my love and support you in any way I can. And there was another thing that you said. It took you some years to get through this. You didn't just wake up tomorrow or next week or next month and you were healed. It took you some years. And so, but you eventually overcame it and became more of the woman who you are today. And so I brought that out because a lot of people think that you're supposed to like be okay 30 days later, like the funeral is this week and okay, you cry for 2 weeks and then 30 days later you okay. And that's just not the way it is. Can you like expound on that a little bit, Pastor Barb, as far as people needing to take the time that they need to heal?
So whenever I'm talking to someone about healing, even like for me, it took years, right? It was my daughter. So it took me years to literally get through that thing. There were so many other aspects of that. There was levels of forgiveness for others that I had to walk through. There were so many things that I had to walk through. It wasn't just grieving. So there was multiple facets of that. I always tell people that grief has an expiration date. And so I believe that grief has an expiration date, that you don't grieve always.
Okay.
Because once you're healed, you won't grieve that way because God will shift your perspective, if that makes sense. But a lot of people don't want to go through the fact of grieving, because grieving means that I have to admit, I have to acknowledge, I have to actually feel the pain. Like you can't grieve without saying, I'm going to feel this pain. And so we try to numb ourselves so that we don't feel the pain of the loss, right? Or the void. So we go to this place where we're trying to numb ourselves. And so in order to truly grieve, you have to allow yourself to feel it. You have to allow yourself to acknowledge it. And then you begin to posture your heart before God, because I believe that God, we were, especially when grief is because of death, right? In the beginning, we weren't supposed to die. So that is almost like an emotion that we don't even know how to really, truly feel, because it was never something when he created Adam and Eve. It wasn't something that they were created. They were never created to die. So it wasn't something that was literally inside of them. That's something that evolved as a result of disobedience.
Yeah.
And so it's like an emotion that you almost don't even know how to react and how to feel when it comes to grief. And so I tell people, feel what you feel. Don't let nobody tell you you got to be finished grieving in 30 days, but it shouldn't take you 20 years to grieve, because you need to sit before the Father. And it took me a long time. Like I'm going to say like maybe 5-6 years. Again, my grieving had multiple components to it. It wasn't just grieving. I had to do some forgiveness, and I wasn't ready to forgive. Because I was angry, I was mad. So there was other aspects along with my grieving that I had to deal with. It wasn't just grieving. Grieving would have been easier than having to deal with all the other stuff that was attached to the grieving.
Yeah. And then like when you're mad, like I know you're mad that you lost your child, right? But then and being mad, then you're mad about other things. And then as time go on, you'd be like, what am I really mad about? Right. And so when you sit there and you center yourself and you honestly, truly do the work on yourself. And that means being honest with yourself, talking about the things that I am mad about, whether they're big or small, whether they're great or you think they're stupid, whatever they are, you really have to be true to yourself. And sometimes we don't want to face our own truth. But when you face your own truth, then you are able to begin your healing process. But if you're not dealing with your own truth, then you're steady putting a coat over it or a little Band-Aid. You're just like, pacifying it. And then as you said, 20 years later, you're still grieving and you're still mad, but you never really truly spoke out in the beginning the reason why you were mad in the first place. Because if you did, then you could have healed 15 years ago, and so that makes a lot of sense. And so Gwen, she says to you, God is so intentional. I am so grateful to be on this podcast. We're glad to have you here too, Gwen, because we're hoping that because we're talking about gratitude, finding the gratitude through grief, so many people have experienced that and probably is experiencing it right now. We just want to be a blessing to you and give you other ways that you can look at it and possibly help start you on your healing journey. And Gwen also says 9 years of grieving behind losing my son. I tried to avoid it, but it had to take place. Pastor Barb, can you touch on that for me, please? Can you?
My greatest victory came from that loss. Um, I don't know. When you lose a child, it is literally the most difficult thing I think I have ever experienced in my entire life. But you have to go in and you have to face it, because I guarantee you that God does not take anything or allow something to be taken from you. Just as Dr. Portia kind of touched on it, he doesn't allow anything to be taken from you that he does not have something in its place that can replace it. But we can't get past the pain of the loss to ever receive the blessing of the Father. And we have to make sure that I don't stay in that place of pain and hurt so long that I can't receive what else God has for me. Out of that, literally, I birthed passion, purpose, power. It ignited such a fire inside of me. It created my relationship with God was so amazing. Every time I've gone through loss in my life and I've had to grieve something, God birthed something else out of me. Every loss that I had caused for some other birth to come forth. And so I say to Gwen that the biggest question I think we ask is why. And we have to be okay if God never says why. And that becomes a hard part when you're a person of faith. We have to just stand in that place of faith and believe and trust God. If he never tells me, I'm still going to trust him, and I'm still going to place my heart, my brokenness, my broken heart, my grieving heart, all of my pain, my disappointment, everything that surrounds this. I'm going to place it in your hand. I'm going to place it in your hand, and I'm going to sit at your feet, and then I'm going to allow you to heal me from that place. And we have to be intentional about doing that. And we have to be intentional about doing that daily. Sometimes we have to be intentional about doing that often. We have to be intentional about doing it every day, reanalyzing, looking things over, examining, and knowing that I'm standing at his feet, I'm standing in his face, I'm standing in his presence so that he can heal me. And we have to be extremely intentional about that.
Yeah. Wow. That is true. Because if you just do nothing, it's almost like you're just kind of floating in a cloud for many years. You're just kind of floating into space, and you don't want to continue to carry over that same brokenness, because not only does it affect you, but it affects your children, your spouse, your family that's connected to you, because they're saying like, we want you to heal so that we can go on and enjoy the life that we have now, right? Enjoy the times that we're living in right now. And so, not saying that they're forgetting about the child that you lost or want to, do away with the memory, but they want to, as Dr. Portia said, do things in the honor and the honor and the memory of your lost loved one, right, Pastor Barb?
Yes. And I also want to say, get help. Most people stay in a place of grief because they will not open their mouth and get help. There are more people who I have met, more women who have lost children since I have shared. They become drawn to me because now I have something that is familiar, something that is real. So I can now speak to that place of brokenness inside of them. There are more people when you're grieving. There's people who have grieved a father, grieved a mother. Grieved the loss of a job, grieved, as she was talking about getting a divorce. I went through a divorce, lost a car, everything. I was like, this woman is literally speaking my life before I'm getting ready to get on here. But that shows you that there's somebody that is a blueprint. What she and I are blueprints to show you that you can make it, that you can overcome, that there is victory after the loss. There is victory after the grieving is over. There is victory. There is still joy. There's happiness. There's love. There's peace. This can be a part of your life. So we have to be okay with sharing our story. We have to be okay with saying, I need help. Yeah. I always tell people, call me anytime, day or night. There's certain people, like, I'm not off limits to you. Call me day or night. I will wake up out of my sleep and I will talk to you. You never have to be alone.
Yes. I'm telling you, because I've called her. And I like the fact that I was able to be transparent. Yes. I didn't have to hide my truth. Because sometimes you think when you talk to a pastor, you can't say certain things, but how can you heal it if you can't say what it is? Like, I don't
Right.
have to act like I'm an eloquent speaker. I'm gonna talk to you like this is what I experienced. I was wrong. I did this. This is what happened. But I'm speaking from a place of truth. But
Right.
Gwen also had something in response to say, Pastor Bob. She said, I never asked why. I noticed last year that by leaning into my truth and acknowledging how I carried it so long, the healing began. You are so right, Pastor Barb.
Right. I think we just have to acknowledge that. So my book is called Unmasking, A Journey to Wholeness. And I literally walked through a place of grief. Grief is one of the places that I walk through, but I walk through several places. But with every place that I walk through, the first thing it is I have to acknowledge it. I have to acknowledge that this hurt me. I have to acknowledge that my portion of it. Now, it's easy to acknowledge what you did to me, Erica, but it's a little tougher when I have to say, no, Barbara is responsible for A, B, C, and Erica is responsible for X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting to that place of acknowledgement. Acknowledging that I'm in pain, acknowledging that I hurt, acknowledging that I won't let it go, acknowledging that I can't forgive God. You know, literally, God, I need you to do something. I need you to create in me a clean heart because I don't have it within my grasp to forgive. I've coached clients and I walk them through forgiveness. And I literally have had them write down things on a piece of paper and I say, okay, now we're getting ready to forgive. They say, oh, no, we're not. I'm not getting ready to forgive. And I have to say, it's okay. You're not ready to forgive. And I have to not push them, but then I know how to pray and strategically get them ready. And to see them now, some of them that said, no, they wouldn't forgive a person. And then to see them now in this place after they have forgiven in the doors of restoration that God opened up as just the act of forgiveness. It is so amazing. It is so, it is literally, sometimes God just blow my mind when we do simple principles, when we do simple things according to his word, he will begin to open up and it causes for a place of healing. I sat down with one of my clients over the holidays and I was just blushing like, wow. Like she tried the things that she did not believe would happen. She tried them. She listened and I coached her through it. She did it. And she said, guess what happened? And she began to share with me. And I was like a proud mama, was like, yes, because I know what can happen, but it takes you to be in that position to really posture your heart and say that I'm going to let some things go. And by me letting them go does not mean that I'm negating that these things happen to me. It does not negate that forgiving somebody does not release them from the responsibility. It heals you. It releases you. It releases you. It sets you free. They have to contend with that for themselves.
Yes.
You are free.
Yes. That is powerful.
Yes.
That's powerful because so many of us hold on to so many things and you're holding that grudge and that other person is going on living their life. And it was so funny because when Dr. Portia was talking, I was thinking the same thought, but it just my comment didn't fit in place, right? I was about 2 days ago, I was on the phone with my friend and he kind of made me mad, right? So I was like, I'll call you back. And I ain't talked to him for till the next day. So then the next day I was still mad.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, why are you mad? So I'm explaining to him why I'm mad. Wait, I'm explaining why I'm mad. But I was like, I don't remember why I got off the phone. Like, I really couldn't remember it. Like, I remembered everything else that I concocted after the reason that I was mad, but I couldn't remember the original reason that I was mad, right? So we made up, right? And then the funniest thing, I was in the kitchen cooking breakfast this morning, and I went to put the toast in the oven, and I remember why I got mad at him. I was like, that was so stupid. Like, that was and so I said that to say, like, sometimes we can create bigger problems than what they should have been if you just step out of your own way and say, look, I'm mad. This is why I'm mad. Let's fix it instead of carrying it on. Now, Martha, she stepped in, which is my mother, y'all. This is the one that I played the video on. She said, this is touching. So many lives at this very moment. This is really helping people who need this open dialogue. And so I'm glad that we are able to help you guys with this open dialogue because I just felt that it was relevant in this time, because a lot of you all are hurting. I want you to know that there's still a happy place there. There's a place that you need to reach. There's a place of gratitude. You need to be grateful for the children that you still have. You know, if you like Dr. Portia, she lost her son, but she was blessed with the grandbaby out of this. And so there's a lot of things that you can find gratitude about, instead of, you know, staying in that place and not starting your healing journey and going forward. Shanika says, that's beautiful. Stay in place until you hear your direction. So is that what you said, Pastor Barb? Stay quiet or stay in that moment until God talks to you and tell you which way to go?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
Diane, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. I believe that you got to really sit still in the presence of God, so that God not only can heal you, but he can give you direction and tell you how to, and which way to go, right? And how to go. And that's why I said that's the place that I'm in for me personally in my life. As I walk into this year, I want to make sure I never want to miss God. People say you can't miss God. I say, Barbara, I'm going to say, yeah, you can miss God. You can walk in disobedience. You cannot be in the right place at the right time. There's things that you can do to miss God. And I cannot afford to miss God in the season of my life. And so I am in a place where I'm just standing still. Like, and some of this isn't God saying, hey, Barbara, don't do this, don't do that. It's me saying, God, I need you, right? It's me saying, this is what I need of you, God, not God saying, there's times when God will tell me, oh, you can't do this. No, you got to hear, this is your assignment. And I have all these instructions, but this is really a season where God is saying, okay, I've equipped you. You know what you're called to do. A, B, C, X, Y, Z. This is things that he told me he wasn't going to give me another instruction until I finished that book. So, you know, the book got to get done, because I can't be stagnated in my life, waiting on me to be obedient. So I'm walking in obedience.
Absolutely. And that is a really good point, because I have been saying I was going to move away from my kids for a long time, y'all. Now I have, and they not kids. I don't know what you call them, but they 20, 23, and the oldest will be 27 on Friday. So they not kids, but they my kids. And I've been saying for a long time, like, I am just going to leave and get my own apartment. I'm going to give you guys my house and I'm going to leave. And then I got scared. I was nervous. I was scared. I was like, I've never lived alone. I've been a mom since I was 17. My first apartment, I had a kid. I've never lived by myself ever, maybe for a summer, but that doesn't count. And so when I got out of my own way, because God had been leading me in that direction, when I got out of my own way and I moved into my own place, thank God, the doors began to open. The blessings began coming. I feel like a new woman. Like, I feel as if there's nothing that I can't accomplish.
Yes.
So when you get out of your own way, step aside and go in the direction that God is leading you on, you're going to be surprised at the things that is waiting for you on the other side of that door. That's where the company comes from. Take one step beyond you. I had to take one step beyond myself, because sometimes you can be your own worst enemy. You can be the one that's holding you back. And you find all these other excuses like, oh, it's the ex-husband, or oh, it's the school, or oh, it's the job. But really, it's you. And so when you get out of your own way and take that step, man, it's so much fun out here living by myself. Don't make that face.
I might have to do some drive-bys. You sound like you're having too much fun over there.
Yes. So listen, Gwen, she has an important question that I want to know, and many of you guys want to know. When will the pre-orders begin for the book?
I have not. I don't know. I don't know when the pre-orders will. I'll just be honest. I don't know when the pre-orders will. I got to send it over to the editor, and then we'll begin pre-orders.
Okay. And what about
passion announcement?
Okay. So what about Passion, Power, and Purpose?
So this year, Passion, Purpose, Power, I have not put out the flyer yet. The Passion, Purpose, Power conference, because we do a conference every year. We do ministry all year long, but we really do a conference once a year. Usually, we haven't done it in 2 years during pandemic, and so now I'm sorry. Now we are getting ready to do a conference in March the 4th and 5th. So the conference is always around. The baby was born on March the 6th. So the conference is always, usually if her birthday falls on a weekend, we do it the weekend of her birthday. But we also do it in the month of March. The beautiful thing about there's a lot of the Feast of Purim was during the month of March. It is literally amazing. This year, I usually do not speak at the conference. I'm actually going to speak at this particular conference. So I am going to be a speaker, and I usually do not. I have Prophetess Kelly Cruz. She is coming back to be with us the entire weekend. We have Pastor Charla Obi. She will be leading us in worship. She's going to do Morning Glory with us. So we are just going to have a good time. The book release, there will be a special, we'll have a time of festivities and fellowship, because we always do. And we will have a special book release. There will be we'll do some time with just centered around the book of Unmasking, A Journey to Wholeness.
Yes. Oh, I
So
can't
I'm
wait.
super excited.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to Passion, Power, and Purpose, because let me tell you, and I don't know if I ever told you this. Before I met you and before I went to the very first Passion, Power, and Purpose, am I saying it back? It's Passion, Power, Purpose, and
It's Passion, Purpose, Power.
Passion, Purpose, and Power. Okay. And it was prophesied to me that I would be in a room with a room full of leaders, like surrounded with all, like, and I was like, what? No, not me. Because I was still living a worldly life. I had one foot in the world and one foot in the church. And I was slowly but surely making in my transition, and God had been positioning me to where he has me now. And so when he says that I'm going to place you in the room with a bunch of leaders, I said, not me. They wouldn't want to be around me. I'm just me. Like, I'm still drinking and doing the things that I'm doing, trying to transition, but ain't quite got it yet. So no, God, you're not talking to me. So when I went to the first event, and it blew my socks off, I cried through the whole event, right? Because I'm probably shedding myself of all those impurities that I had. And afterwards, you and I had a talk, and you let me know that all of the women that were in there were leaders of some sort. I just was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, because in my mind, I was thinking being in the room with a bunch of leaders, like, they wouldn't be normal people, like they would be untouchable, or, this something that was just so surreal. And when I realized that that's what I was blessed with, to be in this room with all these leaders that were down to earth, that were women of God, that were women that will walk with you and hold your hand and encourage you, and they're not holier than thou. I was like, that's the kind of leader that I want to be. And I was like, thank you, God, for putting me in this room with all these wonderful leaders. So thank you so much for that, Pastor Barb.
Amen. I attract leaders. That makes sense. I train leaders, I attract leaders, I empower leaders. So I'm called to leaders. And so I create safe places for leaders. And I think it's really that part. I know you have to know what God has really gifted, the place that he literally will really allow you to operate in. And mine is that I literally cannot be judgmental, right? And I know how to love you to life and look at you. See, I've heard very horrible things from leaders, but that would cause most people to look at a leader, or I know some things about leaders that would cause most people to look at them and say, they're fake, they're phony, they're not valid. And that's not what God says to me, right? I'm able to look and see the good and really go in and love them to a place of life, right? And so I think that that's just a place that I'm blessed with. So I do get to be around a lot of powerful women and men, but very specifically women who are powerful. And some of them don't even know the power they possess. So I get the opportunity to help raise them up. So I love it. I absolutely appreciate that God has trusted me with that, because I know that that's an area that God has literally trusted me. He has trusted me to be able to pour, and for me to be a safe place for them to come.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like, because I'm a leader, but I was a leader in the secular world, so to speak,
So you
and
said,
still learning the spiritual side was no judgment. And so the things that you have been teaching me, I've never did before, like
mhm.
do the altar call and those kind of things. And I was like, ooh, but if you put me out here in the real world, I'm gonna get out here on the stage and speak and do my thing and transform lives. But God was saying to me, you're still missing one part of it.
Yeah.
How can you fully heal people if you haven't healed them spiritually? You
Mhm.
can heal them in one way, but they still need this other component. And
Right.
so to be able to come to you in my full transparency
Mhm.
and you not judge me, that was such a blessing for you. You raised me up to be the leader that I am today. I had it over on this side, but then you came and you added and just made me a better woman, and I really appreciate you for that.
Amen. I appreciate you. I loved watching you grow, though. Really, I literally could see I mean, just it's nothing like someone who's eager.
Yeah.
And just watching, I remember when you had to do your first church sermon, you was like, I got to do this church sermon, and I've done, and you've spoken a million times, but you were like, I got to go in front of this church. I said, okay, so it's a little different, just so you know, the church people aren't as gracious as the world, even though you would think they should be, they're not. But it was just amazing to watch you that day. I mean, you just did, amazing, and just to have watched you from that time to this time and grow in just your spirituality, the talks that we have when we discuss the Bible and just different things. It's just I don't know. I enjoy it. I love it. I love to see people getting those aha moments with God where they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm able to find gratitude through all the things that I'm going to. And so you guys, now if you have any questions for Pastor Barb, please put them in the comment section, because now is the time. I'm not going to hold her hostage, because you guys see Zion wants her attention. And in the minute, Zion gonna be on the camera talking to y'all, teaching y'all about finding grief,
They'll be
finding
like,
gratitude.
let me tell y'all what y'all should be thankful for. I'm thankful for. So I do Bible study, and so Zion gets confused because when I'm teaching Bible study, I kind of let her, she'll come on and she'll speak to everyone either before or after. And so Zion confuses when I'm on anything else virtually. She thinks it's the Bible study. I can come on.
Okay.
They all know me. They love me. I'm part of the group. No, you're not.
Zion, you are a part of the group here. We'd love to have you on Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. You are always welcome. So, Pastor Barb, finding gratitude through grief, it has been a challenge for all of us.
Right.
But I would like for you to give them just a couple of steps or tips, or like maybe 3 tips that they can leave here with and say, these are 3 tips that Pastor Barb gave us to show us how to be able to find that gratitude or move beyond that grief.
The one of the first things that I would say is you acknowledge it, and I will say to write it. So journal. So not only do you acknowledge it, but I believe that you have to write it down. And then I believe, and I'm a firm believer, and I say this when we say the word, when we say when we do prayer, when we read the word, but I'm going to say this for this as well. Then you read it out, because and then you affirm, like you acknowledge it. Example, I acknowledge that losing my baby was the hardest thing that I ever had to do in my life. It caused me great pain. I need help, right? And so that's me acknowledging that this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life. I write this down. I write out, not just, I'm not going to say that it was hard. I'm going to say what is hard about it, right? So I'm going to say it's hard for me to go on. It's hard for me to remember that I had to actually put my child in a cold ground. Like, it was hard for me to look at that little itty bitty casket. It was hard for me to hold her lifeless body, God. And so these are things that I would write down as I'm journaling, like what was hard, not just that it was hard, but I'm going to identify everything. And then I'm going to read that back out so that my ear gates can hear it. Right. And then I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to ask God to begin to cover and everything. The beautiful thing that is when you're a person of faith. So if you're not a person of faith, then grief probably could affect you differently. But when you're a person of faith, you have Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit will be there as a comforter, right? And so that's the power of having Jesus, is you have the Holy Spirit and you have access to the Holy Spirit that will never leave you, he will never forsake you. And so you have access to someone who will be there for you and be willing to wipe away every tear. And then you just begin to pray and you begin to affirm. And there's something in the Bible for every disappointment, for everything that has ever happened that is wrong. Jesus said, he came in. So he's conquered everything so that we can know that we can conquer everything. Right. And so for everything that could possibly have gone wrong, there's something in the Bible. God had to watch Jesus get crucified. So yes, you lost a child, but I did too. Right. Yes, it was painful for you to watch. You had to put your daughter in a cold, in a grave, but I had to watch them crucify my son, right? And so there's things that you just have to look at and say, what does the Word of God say, right? Concerning this, He says, cast all of your cares on me because I care for you. Lay down your burdens. Take my yoke. You can have an exchange with God. You can have a divine exchange with God. You can give him your pain and he's going to give you joy. He's going to give you what he has. What he has is far greater than what you have. And so you have to know that this is a part of. So I would say begin to acknowledge, begin to journal, begin to be very specific in your journaling, and begin to go into prayer and begin to find those things in the Word of God. Okay. And then you begin to pray those things over your life. And the same way that you speak out that pain, you speak out the Word of God that counteracts that. It becomes null and void, right? And so the Word of God becomes more powerful than even the truth, because the truth is it hurts. Yeah. But the truth is my Father loves me and that he can take all pain away, right? Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I don't have to stay this way. Right. So, yeah, the truth is it hurts, but the truth is I'm going to weep in May and joy is on its way. It's coming. Yeah. Wow. Gwen say, Jesus, look, she must be over there shouting with them. That was powerful, Pastor Barb. Yes, Gwen, I totally agree with you. Because when I asked y'all to drop a nugget, boy, man, y'all don't be playing here. And so I thank you so much, Pastor Barb, for coming on the podcast. Can you tell everybody how they can find you if they want to get some more Pastor Barb, or they want to wait for the announcement for the tickets to come out for the event, or, just to find you when they're looking for the book when it comes out in March? So you can find me on my social media handles. I'm Barbara Bankston on Facebook. I'm Barb Bankston on Instagram. I have a prayer that I do every Tuesday morning at 7:00. You can find that information on my Instagram and my Facebook. I also have a Bible study. It's women only, though. Women specific. We do it every Thursday at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7. It's a tribe of women. We do it on Zoom. I don't do it on Facebook because it's private. I literally have walked people through inner healing and deliverance where they have begun to manifest, and I won't say manifest, but they begin to share their stories, and true healing happen right there on the Zoom. And so those are things where I leave way for opportunity for people to say whatever they want to say, and we can walk through that if necessary. And so I don't want that to be so public for the world to see. This is a tribe of women, and we come together and we are our sister's keeper. And so you're welcome to come there, and that information is on Facebook as well. Wow, that's powerful. So Gwen says Pastor Barbara is about to get a whole essay via text on gratitude. So Gwen, you're going to be blowing Pastor Barbara's phone up. That's what she's here for. That's what I brought her on. Absolutely. Some people didn't. So if you have my number, you can text me and call me. Now everybody don't have my number, and I'm not gonna put my number out here. But if you have my number, you can call and text me. That's funny. But I'm glad that you were here for the world to see and hear you,
because there was somebody that you needed to touch today.
Mhm.
There was somebody that you needed to reach, somebody that needed to hear what you had to say. Gwen and other people, they needed to hear this because they're experiencing things in their own life. And as you said, get help, right? They didn't even know where, they possibly didn't know where they could go or who they could go to.
Mhm.
And now I brought you guys two wonderful women on the podcast,
Mhm.
Dr. Portia Lockett and Pastor Barbara Bankston. So now I gave you two outlets of where you can go to get the help that you need and start on your healing journey today.
Absolutely.
So Pastor Barbara, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you have any last words?
The last thing that I will say is God can never heal what you won't reveal. And so be willing to reveal it so he can go in and heal it. He takes joy in seeing you whole.
All right now. Amen. All right. Well, God bless you, Pastor Barb, and I love you.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I am just so grateful to have you in my life because you have taught me so much, and you were part of my growing up process. My mother thanks you too, because she didn't like the way I used to speak. And so that's all with growing pains, right? You learn how to, what you say, when you know better,
You do better.
Amen. Well, God bless you, Pastor Barb,
God
and
bless you.
I will see you soon. I love you.
I love you.
Bye-bye. Well, you guys, I hope that you all got a word, got a message, got a thought, something out of today's podcast. That you were able to discover how to find gratitude through the midst of the grief, through the midst of the things that you've experienced over these last couple years. Perhaps you are a person that have been holding on to grief for so many years, but I'm here to tell you right now, today is the day for you to start your healing journey. Today is the day for you to take that first step in moving in a new direction so that you could be the best you that you can be, not only for yourself, but for all of those who are connected to you, surrounded, around you, people that don't even know that you have so much grace and mercy and joy that's inside of you. But it is time for you to begin to unleash all of that power that's inside of you, all of the things that God has blessed you with, all of the things that's in your belly. It is time to pull it up out of your belly and release it onto the world, because your next step is your best step. So God bless you guys, and thank you for joining Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. And I will see you all next week, next Wednesday. We have radio personality Monica Morgan. She will be on the show, and we will be talking about finding gratitude through photos. How do you find gratitude through photos? Well, you're going to find out next week. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, you guys. And always remember, it only takes one step beyond you. God bless you. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7 p.m. This podcast was brought to you by EricaLynnSpeaks.com. Sign up for your free consultation today at EricaLynnSpeaks.com/work with me. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond
Beyond you. I say Erica Lynn Speaks.